Finnian Glacierstone. The jury summons arrived on a day thick with the scent of brine and decaying kelp, the sort of day where the grey Atlantic seemed to press in on the small coastal town of Oakhaven. I, Finnian Glacierstone, Frostweaver, found it particularly irksome, my work. Coaxing intricate sculptures from ice, freezing the transient beauty of the shore, demanded a clarity of mind, a stillness. This civic duty felt like a disruption, a splinter under the skin of a carefully constructed piece. But Old Man Hemlock, not his real name of course, but the name everyone used for the town clerk, had been quite insistent. The case, he'd said, was unusual. Something about a dispute over tidal rights and the missing lighthouse keeper. The air already felt colder, a premonition, I thought, of the trouble to come. A trouble that smelled not of salt and sea, but of something older, something frozen deep within the earth. The courtroom was stifling, a box of humid air and judgment. The plaintiff, a wiry woman named Maris Thorne, claimed the defendant, Silas Blackwood, had deliberately altered the tide flows, jeopardizing her clam beds. Blackwood, a man built like a granite headland, just stared straight ahead. Then Blackwood spoke, and his voice, it wasn't a voice so much as a grinding of ice. He claimed the tides weren't being altered, they were remembering a time before Oakhaven, before the lighthouse, when the sea held sway over everything. I dismissed it as theatrics, the rambling of a stubborn old man. But then, during a recess, I walked down to the harbor. The water was wrong. Flat, unnaturally still, and radiating a cold that seeped into my bones. I touched the water, and a vision flooded my mind. Vast glaciers, a frozen landscape, and a sorrow that echoed through millennia. It was just a fleeting glimpse, but it left me shaken, convinced that Blackwood's ramblings held a chilling truth. I sought out Old Man Hemlock, hoping for some explanation, some context. He listened patiently, puffing on his pipe, then shook his head. People in Oakhaven have always been resistant to the old ways, he said. Blackwood's family has held the knowledge of the deep remembering for generations. They say the sea isn't just water, it's a memory keeper. I tried to gather support from the other jurors, but they scoffed. Old wives' tales, one woman said. He's just trying to avoid paying damages. Another, a fisherman, dismissed it as the rantings of a recluse. They saw a legal dispute. I saw something ancient and dangerous awakening. Even the judge seemed weary of Blackwood's claims, threatening him with contempt of court. I felt isolated, a single spark of understanding in a room full of indifference. Driven by a growing sense of dread, I returned to my workshop, seeking solace in my craft. But the ice felt different now, more resistant, more aware. I began to experiment, channeling the chilling energy I felt from the sea, attempting to understand the deep remembering. I discovered I could coax the ice to form shapes not of my conscious design, intricate patterns mirroring the submerged landscape Blackwood described. I practiced weaving frost into protective barriers, honing my ability to manipulate cold, preparing for a confrontation I didn't fully understand but knew was coming. Hemlock, surprisingly, proved a valuable resource, providing me with ancient texts detailing the folklore of the coastal tribes, revealing that Oakhaven was built upon a sacred site, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. The final day of the trial arrived, heavy with an unnatural stillness. Blackwood, defying the judge's orders, began to chant in a language none of us recognized. The courtroom temperature plummeted. Then the sea responded. A wave, far larger than any Oakhaven had ever seen, crashed against the harbor wall, sending spray showering over the town. Cracks appeared in the courtroom walls. The jury panicked. I used my newfound abilities to create a shield of frost, protecting the jurors from falling debris. But the force of the wave was too strong. The lighthouse, which Blackwood claimed was a vital anchor against the sea's memory, began to crumble. It was a chaotic, terrifying display of power, and we were woefully unprepared. My shield held, but barely, revealing the limits of my abilities and the terrifying strength of the force we faced. The lighthouse's collapse triggered a cascade of events. The tides turned violent, tearing apart the harbor. Oakhaven was flooded. I lost my workshop, my tools, years of accumulated knowledge, all swallowed by the churning sea. But worse, the cold seeped into my very being, a chilling despair that threatened to extinguish my creative spark. I questioned everything. Was I a fool to believe in ancient lore? Had my obsession with the deep remembering blinded me to the practical realities of the situation? The other jurors blamed Blackwood, demanding his imprisonment. But I knew it wasn't his fault. He wasn't causing the chaos. He was trying to contain it. And I, in my arrogance, had failed to understand the true nature of the threat. Wandering the ruined streets of Oakhaven, I stumbled upon Old Man Hemlock's partially submerged home. He was calm, strangely serene amidst the destruction. He revealed that the deep remembering wasn't simply about the sea reclaiming its territory. It was about a forgotten entity, a primordial being of ice and water stirring in the depths. An entity that had been imprisoned by the ancestors of Oakhaven and whose awakening threatened to consume the entire coastline. He showed me a hidden chamber beneath his home, filled with ancient carvings depicting the entity and the rituals used to contain it. I realized my power wasn't just about manipulating cold. It was about channeling the energy used to imprison this being. I had been focusing on defense when I should have been preparing for a counter-ritual. We gathered what remained of the townspeople on the highest point of Oakhaven, overlooking the raging sea. Using Hemlock's knowledge and my abilities, we began the counter-ritual. It was a desperate, grueling process, channeling all our collective energy into a single, focused beam of frost. The sea fought back, sending waves crashing against us, attempting to drown out our efforts. The entity's presence was overwhelming, a chilling void that threatened to consume our very souls. But we persisted, fueled by a shared determination to save our town. Finally, as the ritual reached its climax, a colossal form rose from the depths, a being of pure ice and water, radiating an ancient, terrifying power. I focused all my energy into a single, searing blast of frost, striking the entity at its core, forcing it back into the depths, sealing the prison once more. Oakhaven was irrevocably changed. The harbor was destroyed, many homes lost, and the town was shrouded in a lingering chill. But the sea had calmed, and the threat had been contained, at least for now. I remained, no longer just a craftsman but a guardian, bound to the town by a shared experience and a solemn duty. I began the long process of rebuilding, using my abilities to create protective barriers against the sea and to help the townspeople adapt to a new reality. The memory of the entity and the deep remembering would forever haunt the shores of Oakhaven, a reminder of the ancient forces that lie beneath the surface and the fragile balance between humanity and the natural world. My hands, once skilled in creating beauty, now bore the weight of a chilling responsibility.